So this is the Amiga 600 that's got the green screen on boot. And well, I had a quick look at the board. I didn't see anything at first. And I went round and I was touching all the chips to see which ones are hot. And U3 Paula, this one was getting pretty toasty actually. I compared that to my working Amiga 600, which got hot but didn't get quite as hot as that. And these two things here are the Rant chips. It's got 1 megabyte of RAM on this, U17 and U16. U17's getting super hot and U16's just staying cool. Compared to my working Amiga, both these RAM chips stay quite cool. I don't think you'd expect a RAM chip to get really hot like that. So clearly that was an indication there's something wrong with U17, and because it's doing the green screen on boot, that is supposed to indicate that there is a RAM failure. So it doesn't mean the RAM's actually failed, it just means it can't access the RAM, so it could be a failure anywhere else. But in this case, it might actually be that this U17 chip has actually failed. I did go around with a multimeter and I tested the voltages on various chips. The voltage on Paula was 4.5, which sounds a bit low, but it was 4.5 on my working Amiga and that was working fine. And the voltage on these RAM chips was 4.7, and I think I tested the voltage on it's the Agnes chip basically, which controls the memory. So that was testing 4.7 as well, which was also the same on my working Amiga. So all the voltages seem to be fine, but this RAM chip, super hot, more hot than I'd expect. And then on closer inspection, because it's really hard to see on camera, but these chips are pretty small, like to the naked eye. They're not, they're not as small as some chips, but they're not like, they kind of look big on camera, but they're not super big. So this top row on the chips on U17, it had some corrosion on the pins and they looked a bit funny there. It's quite hard to see there, but it looked like something was wrong with those pins basically. Again, might indicate there's something wrong with the chip because it's getting hot as well. And then if you look around on the board, you think, well, maybe there's a battery's leaked on the board or electrolytic caps leaked on the board, but there's no electrolytic caps around here, like really anywhere near it, and there's no battery. There would be a RAM expansion in here, but it didn't have a battery backup on it. But then I was thinking, well, you might need to change that out and put a socket on it. But then I thought, but wait a minute, a socket would be really high and the floppy drive sits right on top of here. Maybe somebody put this on and shorted the floppy out on top of it. So normally the RF shield sits on top, but this kind of serves two purposes because it's got this bit here that the floppy drive sits on, and then if you look underneath, there's a non-conductive pad, because the RAM chips basically, the pins just basically sit on top of this. So if you put this on top and then you rest your floppy drive on top, you're kind of good to go. And it's not great for heat dissipation probably, but the floppy drive, it's not going to short out anything because, well, you can clearly see that's why they had to put that on there, because that would just short everything out, because it sits right on top of the RAM chips there. So I thought then, well, let's have a look at the floppy drive. And lo and behold, again, if you look at the floppy drive, right here, there's a little bit of corrosion on the floppy drive, which would happen if you did happen to install this, like bang on in here. Then if you just rested that in there, that would just hit right where that corrosion was on the pins. So I'm wondering if somebody decided that they would like to run their Amiga without the RF shield, because some of them don't have it. My working Amiga doesn't even have one. So it is possible to run them without, but I think maybe if you take the one that has the RF shield and you take it off and then try and reinstall your floppy, there's a very good chance you're going to short the pins out on this memory chip here, and you can see that they're just a little bit duller there. So I just placed this floppy in the RF shield just to have a look what it does, and that's where it would sit if it was in the computer. And if I turn it around, this is the back side, and notice there's actually a cutout for that screw. Yeah, it's difficult to say, like maybe this even happened with the RF shield in, because yeah, that's where the pins are corroded and that's the corrosion on the floppy disk. And yeah, if you can see that you're only millimeters away from touching these pins if you did actually install it without, but maybe it happened even with it in, because they've had to cut that out specifically for this screw hole here. It sounds like this RAM chip's a goner. So I think the next step might be to like put tape, heat resistant tape around here, and try and use hot air to remove this RAM chip, because the schematics say that U17, this RAM chip, is actually optional. So in theory, I don't know if I have to set a jumper or anything, but in theory I could just take this off, and if this other RAM chip was good and everything else was good, maybe the computer would just work, although it'd only have 0.5 megabyte of RAM, but it would work. And I have tested continuity, the data line that's like corrupted and stuff, and they do all seem to be connected. Initially I thought they weren't. One of the pins, you can see where there's like no trace in there. that pin's just not connected. And I was testing that going, oh, it's not connected to the other chip. And then I realized that pin is just a not connected pin. So U17 is apparently optional. So my theory is I can pull that chip out if I can do it without damaging the board. And maybe this will just come back to life. And if so, that could just be replaced maybe. What I'll probably have to do, take this shield off because there's an insulator under there, and if I do the hot air I might melt it, or it will just suck away all the heat and I won't be able to melt the solder. So that would be the step to try and get this RAM chip off and maybe bring this thing back to life. None of the caps look like they've leaked, they all look shiny everywhere. I'd have to double check them because it's so easy to miss stuff. But it looks really good. So here goes nothing. I've got some heat resistant tape, which I'll tape around this U17 chip so I can try and pull it off. And yeah, this isn't Captain tape, this is Coptan tape. This is not the actual stuff, this is just some rip-off stuff. Hopefully it works though, I don't know, never tried it. So yeah, tape around this chip here, and then we'll see if we can get it off with the heat. I might just double it up, seeing as I don't know the actual quality of this tape. It's not like you can go and make a new A600. Well, maybe you can one day, who knows, but I doubt whether they'll be able to make all the chips. And people don't seem to be a huge fan of the A600 for some reason. I think because I mean, I didn't know until recently, but it got a lot of bad press because it was supposed to be this like cost-reduced Amiga, and it really wasn't. Apparently, once it got made, because some idiot got in charge of Commodore and messed everything up, and this was going to be the cost-reduced Amiga, and it ended up being actually more expensive than the Amiga 500 to produce, apparently. But it doesn't change the fact that regardless of all of its marketing crap that it went through, and the fact that it didn't fulfill its purpose in being a cheaper A500, it actually, for me, it was a better computer than the A500. It was way smaller. It had some more expandability in that it had a hard drive. It had most of the same ports. Yeah, it came with a megabyte of RAM instead of half a megabyte. So technically it was an upgrade. It wasn't really a cost-reduced thing. Like normally a cost-reduced computer is the same computer, but it just costs less. But this was actually, well, it had more RAM than the A500, so it wasn't really the same thing. So from my point of view, it was a brilliant computer. It fitted on the desk way better. By the time you got the A500 on your desk and you put the hard drive on it, it was about 4 times the size of this thing. This thing's awesome. And the number pad, although I really like number pads on PC keyboards, I just don't find I really missed it on the Amiga. I think the sacrifice you make for having such a tiny computer with a built-in floppy and a built-in hard drive, I think is pretty awesome for its day. I think it was a pretty awesome computer. It would have been nice if this was the first Amiga, the first instead of the 500. I mean, not that that was the first Amiga. But if this had been the first, you know, I don't know what you call them, not desktop, are they? Like all-in-one Amiga. Everyone would have been raving about it, absolutely raving. But I don't know, maybe it does get some love somewhere, but I really like it. Yeah, so here we go. I mean, if this magically comes to life when this RAM chip comes off, I'll be very happy, but I'm not going to hold out hope for it. Right, so I'll probably just give the board a little warm first. I've never done this before, by the way. Well, I've desoldered a chip, but I only did it as a practice, so this will be the first time. But this is my Amiga, so I'm trying not to wreck it, but if I wreck it, I'm doing my own thing here. I'm not wrecking someone else's Amiga. Try not to burn myself. Here goes nothing. I do it with my other hand. keep nudging it until it... Oh, there we go. That actually wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. And there is my U17. Still hot. So on the whole, I would call that a success. That it wasn't too hard at all. I don't think I've destroyed anything. Let's take the tape off. The board's still pretty warm. So yeah, now I have a downgraded Amiga 600. Let's see if... Let's get that in there. Let's see if that makes any difference. I'm going to put this shield on under here just in case it's going to short out on this cardboard or anything. I doubt it, but who knows? I've just spent this long working on it. I'm not going to screw it up now. At least I don't think I am. So... maybe we'll get a 0.5 megabyte Amiga 600, maybe we'll get a green screen still. Let's have a look. Here we go. I didn't hear anything click. That hasn't powered up. What's going on here? Oh, hang on a minute. Right. Moment of truth. Here we go. Hello? Is my monitor not on? Oh, maybe it is on. I don't see any. Come on, Dell. Entering power. I don't want power save mode. Are you actually on? It's so hard to tell if this monitor's even on. This could be totally booting now and we just don't know. Hello, Dell. I mean, normally it would say no input or something. I think something else is wrong here. I don't think it's the Amiga. Hello? There is no signal. That's not true. Maybe there is no signal. Maybe I've completely killed the Amiga. Maybe this thing's just not plugged in correctly. It's because I've not got it in the case. Ah, there we go. I didn't have it plugged in correctly because I was afraid to push into it really hard because it's not in the case. It's quite hard to... But right, here we go. This time, again. Once more for the dummies. Maybe it just booted before, but we just didn't know. Here we go. Is it going to green screen? Hello? Maybe I've killed it. How could I have killed it? Oh, wait a minute. Am I an idiot? Oh, I'm an idiot. The HDMI, the composite to HDMI converter. The composite to HDMI converter was not plugged in. Right. Oh my god! Oh my god, I've fixed it. There we go. Well, I think I've fixed it. It's back to life. That is awesome. That is honestly, that is the first computer I have ever actually fixed. I suppose it's fixed. I've just downgraded it to 0.5 megabyte. But that is super awesome. So this little RAM chip, wherever it is, it's gone. I've lost it now. Where's my little RAM chip? Oh my god, it's gone forever. But yeah, fixed. That is super awesome. I am really happy. That is the best result I could have asked for. So now I need to find another RAM chip that can replace that. So that's awesome. That is a fix, kind of a fix. And here's the little guy here. Thanks for nothing. NEC, from you only lasted 30 years. What was wrong with you? So yeah, I'm really happy. That is a proper fix. I have two working Amiga 600s now. Awesome.